Allow this first one, Swati. This is super. Looks like that was super intentional here. Yeah, Nikhil, looks like you took the same risk I'm taking right now. That's good. Any reflections on this? Raise your hands and share if you had any aha moments or any reflections. Choosing a path, closing of other paths. Yeah, Vijay, do you want to share?
It's all about visualization, right? For that brief moment, I went back and actually looked at things, how or what shaped me up today, right? So probably I think 3 minutes, 2 minutes we did, or I did, but then yeah, it connected me to all those 20 plus years I've spent in this industry, right? So pretty good. I don't look back or reflect back. Honestly, I some reason that reflection doesn't work for me. But then yeah, it was good to connect back to those memories for a brief moment. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Hey, how many of you feel this way? I definitely do feel this way. Abhinav, yeah. Swati, this is a common thing. So you're not alone. Like I definitely felt this when I did this. But the good part is you are the youngest you will ever be, right? 2 years down the line, you'll probably think back, had I taken more risk 2 years ago, right? So that's a really, really good insight. This is probably a golden nugget so far. This is, thank you. Thanks for
Yeah,
sharing.
I just want to add that, right? Yeah, risks we all take, but then the quality of risk is what matters, right? So the higher the aim, right, the larger the risk. What you let you go versus what you're going to get, right? Something that is unknown, right? So that's what I think I should like what matters, and staying in the game or having that patience, you will see that it pays off, right, in the long term. So that's something probably we should cherish for.
I think the current skill I'm working on is trying to be patient.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting dichotomy there. Um, Eagerness, bias for action to take more risks, and patience to wait for the right opportunity, which is like classic Warren Buffett says, like, don't swing for every opportunity that you get, like wait for the perfect sweet spot, right? So investment and also in career, but you should put yourself in a spot where you are thrown a lot of opportunities, right? uh, it's good to be patient, but one of the primary motives I want, like the mindset change I want, is like, how do we put ourselves in a place where you get thrown a lot of balls? You can choose not to hit or swing, but most of us and most of the people that I coach are not putting themselves out there where they get thrown a lot of balls, right? So how do you position yourself to see a flood of opportunities so that you can decide which one to swing for? So that's one core thing that I want as an outcome after 2 weeks of this together.
And one more thing I did not mention, Krishna, is how do we prepare? There is a lot of material out there on LinkedIn, on Google, on LeetCode. 10 out of 10 engineers out there will be on LeetCode practicing every problem, but then that will not give you an edge. Like whenever you give interviews, I mean, as an interviewee and the interviewer, you both know that there are questions out there and there are solutions. It's just that in 20 minutes, it's very difficult to gauge your ability. And there is always this inertia of preparation. Like when you are in that rush of a job search for 3 months to dedicate that time. I would, because right now, earlier for me, the priority was intensity, but right now my focus is consistency over intensity.
Perfect. I love that. Yeah. So that's the focus of this boot camp as well. Consistency over intensity, because intensity dies 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's hard to keep an intensity for 1 year. Consistency is something that you can strive for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. So I love that mindset.
And another thing is that, like, when you are a fresher, it is easier for you to adapt. Like 3 years or 6 years down the lane, at least my goal is I don't want to be competing with fresh grads in an interview. I want to position myself like, you know what, this is an opportunity, I can do it. I don't want to keep begging and asking.
I love that. You are stealing some of my slides. This is awesome. So you are in the right place. You we will do deliberate activities around this. Thank you. Thank you for sharing what's top of your mind. This is how many resonate with Swati there? How many of you feel like I'm not building an edge? 2 years down the line, what I'm working on would be a commodity. How do we? Yeah. So Swati, see the reaction stage. So you're speaking all of our minds. So this is great. Any other reflections before we? Yeah.
I want to kill the insecurity and the fear, Krishna. Like wherever I'm on globe, I should not be like, oh, what am I going to do tomorrow? It's just that I'm adding a certain value and people should invest in me. That is the biggest takeaway for me.
Love it. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Sorry, who was speaking?
Hi, Nikhil this side. So I think already someone asked the question around black lines in the visualizer. Somehow considering they are the paths which were not taken, right? So maybe that's why they are undefined in the diagram, right? But I am confused around like how they add value in terms of visualization, because we are not even tagging them even on imaginary goals, right? Or imaginary milestones which could have come up if we have went through those paths, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, even if we remove the black lines or we keep it, are we not visualizing the same thing? Just my biggest impact areas which we have documented, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Black lines don't matter, right?
Okay.
You can't do anything about them, right? So it could also be like you say, suppose you are here, you chose some line, and you now can deliberately choose this path which goes towards closer to the line that you would have gone. You made a choice, you experimented with something, that experiment didn't work out. You can go back to the closer to the previous path that you were. For example, you tried out management, right? So here I was literally pushed to become a manager at Amazon first time I became. So here I went in with considering it as like a two-way door. Okay, I am trusting this leader who sees something in me that I'll be good. I don't believe I'll be great here, but this leader has much more experience and they are nudging me to do this. Let me give it a shot. And if I don't like what I see on the other side, I can go back to my IC path, right? So that if this had not worked out and if I had not enjoyed it, I would have gone back to retraced back to a black line. Does that help?
I think, Krishna, the way I now understood better, maybe the visualizer is, we are more of trying to analyze 2 consecutive, or let's say 3 consecutive milestones, right? Or decisions we have taken, and then retrospective, like did we change directions deliberately, and the reason around it, and how they added value in the long term?
Are we being deliberate? Exactly. Are we being deliberate, or we just chose a path and we are continuing on the path because we didn't retrospect, right? So,
So instead of black line, maybe the two consecutive or maybe three consecutive points tagged milestones being compared, right, for a retrospective purpose, right? Like, just for an example, I also had a similar example where I moved to engineering management and then later decided to again move back to IC, right? So I think this can be done without even looking at the black lines, right?
Yeah.
In the
yeah.
Okay.
So my request to you, or my suggestion would be, like, don't even bother about the black lines, because you can't control them. So you are here. What matters is this, right? So we did this activity just to bring it to the forefront that all these decisions that we make, we are taking a branch in the multiverse, right? So so how can we be more deliberate, like either positioning a decision as, hey, this is an experiment that I evaluate for next 2 months and these are my paths. So being more deliberate is the biggest takeaway here I want you to take, is like, you have millions of opportunities in front of you. What you did doesn't matter. It's where you want to go, and based on what you truly care about. Like, we'll go through those activities in future, in the coming slides. But the takeaway here is focus on the green in future, and you can be anything that you want. So, Manuel, you had a question? Adi, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Swati was mentioning earlier. One of the things I'm hoping to take away from this bootcamp is I want to build a strong sense of instinct. What I realized is that over my career, I've relied too heavily on validation from my peers and managers. I want to be in a position where I know what I'm worthy of, and I can build that kind of self-confidence, so I know what I bring to the table.
Awesome. The other angle is, many of us choose career paths. I have been guilty of this as well. And I see this again and again in the people I coach, is we choose paths not because they feel intrinsically right for us, but we choose paths based on LinkedIn envy. My friend has grown from X to Y. Let me choose that path because that seems good. That LinkedIn profile looks good. So there is immense pressure to do that. And if you're not conscious, LinkedIn envy is the default that most people go to without even realizing it. So one thing when we are trying to be deliberate is forgetting about that LinkedIn envy, forgetting about the local maxima that you are seeing with your friends group, because you are not exploring everything. When you are just comparing yourself with your friends group and you are deciding your path based on that, you're going for a local maxima, right? So that is one thing that I find as a constant struggle to fight against, because you're seeing you're talking to friends, you're seeing friends, relatives, your peers, your ex-colleagues. Oh, this person has grown much more than what I've grown. This is a common source of frustration, but you don't know the full story of that person, right? They may not be happy with what they have. So one core pillar I want of this is that you forget about LinkedIn envy, figure out what you really want, and design a career around what will make you happy. So we'll go through some activities around that. Afsir?
So from your path, just one question I have is like, how much deliberate you were taking each step? Like, was it just like a high level thought, like, okay, being manager might be good for me, or did you have like concrete like checkpoints in the future that you like planned, or did you just
So
went into that path thinking it's a good option?
Yeah. So really good question. So I wish I could say I was 100% deliberate. I would say I was about 40% deliberate in most of my decisions. But off late, in the past 3 years, I've been super deliberate. The change that happened was biggest turning point there was like lost my mom, and I started questioning about what is the meaning of life, what do I really want out of my life. All of those questions came. That was one pivotal moment in my career. I was usually more deliberate than average throughout my career, but that point made me super deliberate about what do I want about each of my life choices. For example, here, so I come from a very small college. Maybe 5% of the people got placed, 2% of the people got placed out of college. And of them, I would say 95% continued on that job for the first 2-3 years, because that is the conventional wisdom. Okay, you have your first job, you do good for 2 years, then switch, learn a lot, then switch, right? So here I took a very unconventional path. Once I joined HCL, I moved within 9 months. So that means that I was working, and from day one I was preparing for my next role. And I had to grow a lot because the gap was huge. I was not ready for an Adobe kind of a culture or like intensity right out of college, because my competence level was not high. So that window, I really invested and improved my competence to join Adobe, which I think is one of the best decisions that I made, because the compounding effect of that, compounding effect of your early decisions is much more than any decision that I make today will have far lesser compounding effect than that decision that I made further, right? But any decision that I make today will have much more compounding effect than the decision that I make 5 years from now. So that is one realization there, right? So few things here. So I'm switching from here to here. So I had a high level picture that I want to go to US. I want to be in US. So if I put myself back here, the deliberate part was I wanted to be in a top tier product company. I want to go to US. These were my rough North Stars. I hadn't laid out exactly how I'll do that. And I didn't want to go to do a master's in US, partly because I couldn't afford to do it, because I had to support my family. And also I didn't feel the value of like 2 years spending so much money. And there is a small path, there is an L1 visa path, which not many people take. The default is to do a master's here, right? So yeah, very thought-provoking question. So I'll say like I had North Stars, high level ideas without clear path on how to get there. And I just figured out on the way how to get there.
No.
Thanks for that question. Okay. Aditya, what was this reaction around? Oh my God, that's too real on the Slack.
The point around LinkedIn envy.
LinkedIn envy.
It's been too real for me, especially since 2020, like post-pandemic. That's been a big yes.
How many resonate with that? How many are actively fighting that?
Very much.
It's hard. It's hard to fight that. Even though I have made some bold moves, it gets to me sometimes. So it's hard. You have to consciously fight for it. Swati, did you have any point to it?
Yeah, I think, Krishna, doing is one thing, projecting is another thing. A lot of us do, but sometimes we are not great at expressing our accomplishments. We just pass it off as responsibilities. I think that is where the envy stems from.
I agree.
I mean,
Optics.
there are a lot of people who consciously work on their LinkedIn profiles, like every day, 2 or 3 sentences over here, the vocabulary. I just realized vocabulary makes a lot of difference. I drove this versus I did this.
Yeah. I was part of a team versus I drove this, right? World of difference. You could have done the exact same thing. How you project optics. I think optics is one of the underappreciated thing. People feel it is politics to do optics. It's not. You have to project your best self, because if you don't, you are competing with people who are projecting their best self, right? So I love the point that you brought up there. Thanks for it.
And again, like, I designed this solution versus this solution created an impact where it brought down the errors, or it improved the performance by 30%. Like, it's just that, just give people what they want. But you're not the only one who has realized that. There are a lot more people who know this.
Adi?
Just adding to that, like in the past few years, I've noticed that a lot of people that I look up to have become what I'd like to call LinkedIn influencers almost. That is a skill that I don't possess. Like as Swati was saying, I go about my job, and as I was mentioning earlier, the only validation I'm looking for is from my boss. That's been a source of envy as well, to see friends and connections be able to communicate their thoughts so beautifully through the LinkedIn posts. At times, I also wonder how they're able to make so much time, and if it's more optics than actual work. So yeah, just putting it out there.
Ultimately everything boils down to your competence. You can't fake it till you make it beyond a point. Competence matters, but optics also matters. So great discussion around that.